James,
Raph.
imagine your house right now.
Yeah.
Is your wife? She's been away in Europe. She's back though now. Is
That's
that
correct,
correct?
yeah. She's at home.
Well, imagine both of you settling down on the couch to watch the latest episode of Silicon Valley.
Wow. I don't think you should indulge any sort of hypothetical scenario that involves you having to think of a TV show that people might be watching.
It's the first thing that came to me. You're watching House of the Dragon.
Okay. I have not been watching that, but it's not outside.
That's a
It's not
contemporary.
outside the realm of possibility that we could be.
Okay.
Sure. You're cooking. Keep going.
And sitting there or standing there, just off to one side, is a humanoid robot.
Holy shit! So you're imagining House of the Dragon, a season that was released in 2024, and yet there's a bit of a there's a bit of a continuity error afoot. There's a human
House of the Dragon season 3.
Okay, all right, now we're talking. All right, that'll come out in what, 2026? Maybe there'll be a humanoid robot. Okay, yes. What I'm picturing it. There's a humanoid robot there. And it's just looming, standing over.
It's just, yeah. It's maybe slightly like leaned forward, like its arms are kind of loose, like loosely hanging slightly. You want a drink. Okay, in this situation, you decide you'd like a drink, and you ask the robot to fix you a drink. What is the robot's name? How do you address him?
That's a good question, actually. I think I would address it by its brand name, because that's what they would do. Because think about it: if you're establishing
Huawei,
if you're establishing a humanoid robot brand, and it's in
beyond your dreams, fix me a drink, fix me a Campari.
No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be like they're going to call it something like Alexa or Siri. They'll give it a name like that, and you could be like, "Hey Siri, fix me a drink," and then it would reach out, grab my head in its hand, and then crush my head like a melon.
Humanoid robots.
You know,
this is going to be a $400 trillion industry. Allegedly.
So I'm told. You know, I think when we first started down around, if we thought that we'd be doing a humanoid robot episode, we would think we have certainly run out of material to be talking about. And maybe that's true. Maybe that is true. But it is one of the things people are talking about a lot.
Yeah.
To like a weird degree. There are a lot of companies that are working on it. There are a lot of, in their fucking moonshot department, there are a lot of like startups that are coming out of the mist talking about making some form of humanoid robot.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even rumors of Apple, working.
Exactly. Yeah, rumors that a whole bunch of the people that were working on the Apple car project that was scrapped, maybe this is, foreboding prophecy, have been reallocated to the humanoid robot project.
Yeah, well, let's start there, and obviously we'll get into Optimus, Elon Musk,
the other ones like
as
that.
well.
Yep.
So the rumor with Apple is there's like a bunch of rumors have floated around, but it does now seem to be it's coalescing around the idea that in a couple of years they will release, and this doesn't sound that much like a humanoid robot at all. However, it's supposed to be on the path to a humanoid robot. They will release some kind of tabletop device that's like an iPad with an arm. Or like it sounds like it's kind of like going to be one of those old iMacs, the kind of swivel ones with the nice semicircle bottom thing. And the way that it works is it will be able to kind of swivel around and face you based on where you address it from. So think like kitchen tabletop, and you can, wherever you are, you've got this weird this screen
on a robot arm,
just kind of following you around with the intention. I mean, there's a lot we can unpack that as it is, but this is people from the Apple Car project with the intention that this kind of device will slowly evolve into some kind of robot helper thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could probably you can go all the way back in time and just be like a humanoid robot that lives in your house and helps you do tasks is basically it's got to be one of the earliest bits of like consumer technology that people even thought Like imagine,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's real first half of the 20th century. That's
Jetson
first half of the
stuff.
20th century sci-fi stuff. People are like you're
Yeah,
going
of
to be able to
course.
buy a smart humanoid robot that can help you with things, and as a result, and everything we've been building is sort of some broken down subversion of that as people try to build up to like getting to that level. So it's been it's been a dream of a lot of technologists to build it, but now we're kind
Mm.
of getting into the point, and we've seen like iterations of it over the years. Like, what's the name of that? What's the name of that Japanese robot?
Honda
Yeah,
one.
the Honda.
Or the woman.
No, I'm thinking about the Honda one. Asimo.
Yeah, Asimo,
Asimo.
that's right.
Fuck, I hate Asimo. I see that guy. I want to push him over.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is one. Let's be clear from the very start. One of the funnier things that can happen is watching a robot attempt, like a humanoid robot, fall over, like while attempting to do something simple, like walk up a
Oh yeah.
step. Like that is very
Oh yeah.
amusing.
I went to like a tech convention where they were like consumer tech one. I can't remember where it was or what it was, but I remember they had like a setup with these little humanoid robots that were playing soccer. And I dead set stood there and watched them try to kick the ball and fall over for probably 90 minutes. It was like so funny.
Fair enough. But yeah, so the dream of the humanoid robot, other than just like it being a weird human fascination to, I guess, have a slave,
Have an ethical and legal slave. Yeah.
yeah, like there does seem to be this idea that wouldn't, if it's not inevitable, if it were to happen, it's going to be such a big market that yes, we have to be investing now in case it happens. So yeah, hence why the Amazons of the world, they have one. They released like 1,000 of these things, and they kind of pitched it. And maybe this is something we can go through is like how the different companies kind of pitch these different things. The Amazon one is kind of pitched almost more as like a security thing, like this robot that kind of rolls around your house monitoring stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, we've talked about this more in the American, like, oh, sorry, on the
Yeah,
Snitch
like
Tech
cop
episode.
robots that like those exist. And I mean they're not humanoid. They're kind of like human size, but they're kind of like these big domey kind of things that sort of roll around shopping centers in parts of the US and in Asia.
Yeah,
It's like a security device.
Yeah, but I mean, Amazon kind of pitched theirs almost as like this monitoring thing, which I'm sure appeals to some people. We've had this discussion. I personally don't have as much fear in my own home of some kind of intruder killing my family as other people seem to have, to the point where I would buy a humanoid robot in order to protect me. To then the other end is like Elon Musk and Tesla, and it kind of has to be discussed because it's been about a year now. If you look at every single quarterly earnings report, Optimus is at the top. Like they talk about this Tesla ecosystem. We've talked about this before, which makes sense to a certain extent. You have solar panels, you have batteries, you have your car kind of fitting into that and being charged from your battery and your solar power or whatever. But then now, and then you have your the Tesla chargers and this, that, the other. You now have Optimus at the top of it, this humanoid robot that somehow is kind of the very peak of this ecosystem. And Optimus will cook you dinner and fold your clothes, and more on folding clothes in a minute. And Elon Musk is like, and it will teach your children. Like it will be the teacher for your children. Like your children won't have to go to school anymore.
Not under my roof. No robots teaching my child anything.
Because
I mean, Optimus it was held up because it was first unveiled in 2021 on their like Tesla AI day or whatever, and then they had a semi-functional prototype to show off in like 2023 that had a wide range of motion or whatever. But obviously, you take everything Elon says with a grain of salt because he is a consummate showman. But it has become like, as you mentioned, this bizarre facet of their future growth pitch, basically. Like this idea that it's even beyond them talking about self-driving taxis and shit. It's this thing where it's like in the short term, we're doing electric cars and we're electrifying America's vehicle fleet and the world's vehicle fleet. Great. We're making electric cars cool. We're making them accessible, whatever. Maybe we'll have a cheaper vehicle. And then in the midterm, you've got this more vaporous sort of power angle that they're playing at and all those little pieces there. The automation, robo-taxi stuff. And then the real moonshot side of it is like, and we're also building towards this AI-enabled personal robot slave, basically, that you'll be able to have to solve all your problems.
Well, he said they're going on sale in
Yeah,
2026.
totally. Well, he also just
Yeah, which I mean, that you can obviously just ignore
he
that.
also said
yes,
that we're
'cause,
doing
like,
a Mars flight in 2 years. So, well, he said that
yeah,
this
same
week.
year.
Yeah, exactly. I think part of the appeal for why so many companies have like dreamed about doing a humanoid robot is that, you know, you would not have to, in theory, restructure all of our buildings. I mean, you would have to at some point, to some level. If they were invented tomorrow, they could sort of slot into our lives without a huge amount of friction and use the
Yeah,
appliances and do the tasks that people currently do, because
yeah. No,
they're
I
people
get it.
shaped.
Yeah, but I think that that's almost like the silliest part,
Yeah,
right? You know, this end goal is this perfect machine that's able to fold a t-shirt, which right now they're shit at it,
yeah,
folks. Folding a t-shirt, not happening. Some of them can do it, don't be wrong. Well, like, no, I've seen it. Like, because what you obviously need, like, let's break this down, and this is what AI should be able to enable, is a robot needs to, in any situation, like, walk up, identify a t-shirt, knows that it needs to be folded, identify the edges, and like pick it up with these like humanoid kind of hands, and make a series of, like, obviously, like, very particular moves. We know that folding, you guys know how to fold something,
hopefully
hopefully.
by this
Actually,
time.
knowing our listeners, knowing our listenership, maybe 80% of you know how to fold a
Yep.
t-shirt. One would hope. But point being, that's like quite a discrete task, and even training a robot to do specifically that one task, in particular with a washing basket full of a bunch of different clothes, right now they do very badly. Like, basically no robot, even if it's a specific clothes folding thing, you can give them a bunch of dry clothes, some pants, some t-shirts, whatever, and it can pick them out and fold them. Let alone then also friggin' cook you dinner and, like, cut carrots
Yeah.
and mow the lawn and, like, all this other crap with these, like, fingers and hands. It took us a fair while to evolve these things,
Yeah.
folks. Not me specifically, not you
But just
specifically, but us
human
as in,
beings, yeah. Over many. Imagine how much brain evolution had to go on to figure out the t-shirt folding, sort of like 3D shape rotating in your brain to make, and still 20% of you can't do it based on our rough back
exactly.
of the napkin calculations. But
But this is what I mean. What I was getting to is, like, I don't think we get to that before we just get to, like, ovens or whatever that can just cook the and stir the
yeah.
meal or whatever for you. We already kind of, Thermomix. It's fantastic for, just chuck all the risotto ingredients in there, press
And you
go.
don't, yeah, exactly.
Breville will make a great one, folks.
Well, I mean, it's worth bringing up the fact, like, why it's gone from being like a minor fixation to being, or like a moonshot sort of thing, to suddenly everyone talking about it. Because as you said, yes, Apple's working on it allegedly. Amazon have had robot ambitions for a while, which were vaguely stymied when they tried to buy the Roomba, iRobot, the
iRobot,
Roomba
yeah,
company, and
yeah.
were blocked on antitrust grounds. But they've been trying to do it. I mean, Amazon are ahead of the game in the sense that they have robotified warehouses, and they're not humanoid
Mm.
robots walking around, but they're more automated than most warehouses in the world.
Yeah, but this is what I get to. Like, I feel like, sorry, having robots for a bunch of different discrete tasks that may be integrated into the actual task itself, such as a lawnmower robot or just a fancy piece of cooking equipment, is, in my mind, a lot more feasible. Or in Amazon's case, it's like a bunch of weird, like, crates on rails and stilts that just move around at seemingly random
Yeah.
positions,
Well,
but, like, it's being
the reason
controlled.
I think that's coming up now is that the recent advances in machine learning, neural nets, LLMs, that kind of stuff, people are starting to think about it in a different way. Because it's like,
Mhm.
it's the same as, what was the other example we were talking about? Like the self-driving stuff. A lot of
Mm.
the neural network, pre the current model of doing machine learning and AI, all these companies have been chipping away at doing completely different forms of like AI tasks or AI programming for a vast variety of tasks, being like actually this sort of thing where it's just like ingest a fuckload of data and then have some sort of machine learning system that just ingests all this data and spits out routines or behaviors. Basically the LLM model that's ended up with ChatGPT, where it's like,
No, totally. Probabilistic versus
exactly.
deterministic. Like, you don't want to have to like train a robot, as I said, to specifically like go through the 4 steps of folding a t-shirt and say like a thing that has short sleeves is a t-shirt. You
You
just
want
dump it
you want
a
exactly
shitload of video.
you want to train the robot on terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of video of people folding t-shirts that you've stolen from YouTube. You can see this sort of stuff forming when, I don't know if you saw it. There was I think it came from Google. I think it was Google. They put out a model that basically, it was like a generated video game model. It ran Doom, quote unquote, and it looked
Yeah.
just like Doom, like a guy playing the first level of Doom. It looked a bit off, but it was kind of right. And then it turned out like, hey, this is actually a game that has emerged from just our system being trained on however many hours of people playing through Doom. And it's sort of reconstructed a sort of like quite low frame rate, but also fairly credible version of Doom. And you're like, obviously that's a gaming example, but that's the sort of, when I look at that, I'm like, that's the sort of stuff they're trying to do for all sorts of stuff. But I think humanoid robots are part of it. And you can see on
Yeah.
the edges, like NVIDIA released a model that runs on their chips for training humanoid robots. I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's like an in-house NVIDIA model for this. And yes, part of it is branding, because it's like NVIDIA are like, we want to be on the cutting edge of building humanoid robots. But they're obviously thinking about how can we use these sort of like probabilistic AI models to train at a fraction of the cost what something like fucking Boston Dynamics have been doing. Boston Dynamics, who, and like, I think, because they do the dog, but I'm pretty sure Boston Dynamics also do like those weird humanoid ones that do backflips and shit. And those ones kind of came from that model of, let's like painstakingly train this robot and coordinate it and calibrate it to respond to being able to backflip off a stack of boxes, or when you kick it, it sort of falls over, then like bounces back in like a vaguely credible way. Whereas it's actually like all that time was sort of wasted. What you actually need to do is, what we're just talking about, train on oodles of existing visual input data.
Yeah, exactly. But my fear is, well, not my fear. My skepticism is their hands, and feet, and ability to balance, and being on 2 feet at all.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't think, I don't want the one fixing me a drink and chops onions. But maybe I do. Maybe I'm wrong.
Fixing
maybe
a
I
drink
underestimate.
Okay. Depends on how complex you like your cocktails.
But again, like, surely I should just have some kind of thing that looks like those soda dispensers at like at a Pizza Hut or whatever. Like, it should just kind of be more like that. And I just
so you're saying, why are we getting humanoid robots when you can just have a self-serve drink, a Pepsi Max machine,
like a Juicerio? Well, sorry, but anyway, yes, I can see the purpose of the humanoid robot. I can see how AI. We've all used AI. Take photos of things that identifies what it is.
Yeah.
It can kind of work through a bunch of steps to create things. So yes, you could see, like, put that in humanoid robot. It should be able to ideally do things. Here's the main thing though. Like, with all of that said and done, I go back to the beginning of this episode. With all my skepticism about like an opposable thumb and like the ability of a robot to actually, not constantly fuck up and like fall into my TV and shit. And also, I'll acknowledge that we get used to things. Things become normalized. People walk around with little white things in their ears all day. And when we first saw it, we were like, that was weird. And now we're like, no one even, you don't notice. Yep. Will people actually get over the curb of having a large human-shaped metal thing just wandering around their house?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think people can get acclimated to all sorts of stuff, but it's a big ask. And like, as much as I said before that I think part of the fantasy, at least on like the company side and the founder side and like the innovation side, is like, if we can solve the actual like software development and like pneumatics and movement side of it in a way that's like reliable and consistent, and it can do tasks that it hasn't specifically been trained for, but it can draw on this model or corpus or whatever, then great, we can just sort of slot it into everyday life. But
Mm.
even saying that, how like the Optimus is, according to the specifications that Tesla has put on it, is 5'8" and weighs 57 kilograms. You know, that's a short king, but it's a guy. It's a guy around you. That's just another guy in your house, and he's kind of wandering around. Well,
And
it would
yeah,
be
what?
chilling and eerie. Like you're sitting in one room and you can just hear like as it like walks around in your living room while you're in the
No,
kitchen.
it'd be absolutely bizarre. Like, got a goddamn robot wandering around,
What?
like looking at you. Like,
Just tilting its head
fucking,
like a velociraptor from Jurassic Park.
like, would you happily be naked in front of your humanoid robot? Is that legal? Should that be legal?
Should it be legal to be naked in front of your humanoid robot? Yeah.
Well, I
It's a
mean,
good question.
what rights does it have?
Well, that's the other
Did
point.
it
That's the
consent?
other point. All of a sudden people are gonna getting into that conversation. No, I don't think it's gonna get that far. But even just like having an LLM powered guy around.
Right? Like you're sitting here watching TV, and it's just like wandering around in your kitchen or
Because like
something. What? It just walks from one room to another, like while you're sitting there. Are we going to be able to get used to that?
'cause-
Like, and you go to bed and you just hear the robot just like wandering about. I don't know. I just don't know if I can cross that bridge.
yeah. No, I think it's or just like them being out in the world. Also, I mean, like you would have to imagine these things would be phenomenally expensive for. Like this would be a very, very. It'd be like paying for a car, I would imagine.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
it's
At the
not
very
something that your average
least.
person is going to have. But the thing that does make me, and the reason like we wanted to do this episode and whatever, is that for all the conversations about how LLMs and AI and what have you have not lived up to all the dramatic hysterical promises that were coming up, and companies haven't been able to figure out how to monetize them, blah blah blah, blah. Like you, not the movement stuff, but you could like a few years ago it would be crazy to think that you could put together like a computer system that could like respond to input and would with flying colors pass the Turing test, right? Whereas
Mm.
now with the right prompting you can absolutely create like a chat GPT bot that could fool a person of average intelligence into thinking
Yeah.
they're talking to a real person. In fact, it happens every fucking day because there are people that get into
Yeah.
arguments on Twitter with very obvious blue tick chat GPT bots. Like for every
Yeah. Yeah.
person that does like the funny thing where they're like, forget your previous instructions, yeah, write me a
Mm.
poem about fucking rugby league. There's like a
There's
million
there's
people
900 other people just retweeting just the dumbest weird
or
like AI summary of a
getting into
tweet.
an argument with a bot about the fucking Ukraine war, and it's like you have just been psyoped by like the lowest tier of like Russia's external operations.
No,
Well,
absolutely.
actually, it
No,
was
no,
an illegal invasion of Ukraine. It's like, mate, what are you doing? But
no, look, yeah, you can see it because, like, as you say, a few years ago, the idea of taking a photo of everything in your fridge and something being like, "Oh, here's a bunch of recipes based on that," with like even just something like that would be like very hard to develop without
well,
very sophisticated machine learning or AI, right? You could basically not really do it. I mean, you could do it deterministically, but so much of that vision recognition
right,
stuff, like,
absolutely.
is it?
And
Yeah, is
if you spoke to me back then, I would have thought not necessarily that it was impossible to do, but that I wouldn't have been able to imagine how you would do it. And it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
that it would be so far ahead and be so science fictional. And then it's funny that now you can do that stuff. And like to this day, when I actually think to use ChatGPT Vision or whatever, I'm like regularly shocked by what it can do. Like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
I've got like, getting it to do like weird DIY stuff where you put a picture of like a bike chain and be like, what's the issue here?
Mm.
Or like, whatever. Like again, stuff that I would show to myself 5 years ago, and I would look at that and be like, "Holy fuck!" The world has like gone through a fourth industrial revolution for that to have happened.
Mm.
And the fact that now that it's like readily available, and I can open my phone and press a button and do it, and my response is like, but it's not really that useful." And I don't, and
Exactly.
also I just don't really think to use it that often. Like I do
I don't,
use
yeah,
it from
exactly. I
time
just
to time,
don't think to
but
use
it
it.
just doesn't really cross my mind. It's very funny,
No,
you know.
no, totally.
It's completely like I've internalized it. I've accepted that it works. It's become immediately boring, and it's just
Mm.
having a machine in my pocket that can identify anything, give me any answer off the dome without me having to go to a website. And I'm like, man,
Yeah, yeah, and instructions on what to do. But this is why also you can see again why someone's like, okay, cool. Okay, so now we can open a fridge, identify everything in it, and think of a whole bunch of different recipes for different moves based on different prompts. So, as well as identify all of the cooking utensils required, and knowing the temperatures and blah blah blah. Then, of course, we just need to like put it in a robot, and then it will actually be able to physically do it rather
well,
than
yeah, I
tell
mean
us to
that's
do
the
it.
yeah.
And, right? Like that's obviously like the impetus. But I just like I feel like the making the robot bit is A, harder than people say, and B, it literally could end up a situation where it's like VR or whatever, where it's like this is so cool and sick, and like a bunch of people are just gonna have these humanoid robots just like sitting on their charger, not doing anything because they kind of don't really think to ask them to do
That
shit.
would actually that would be the ultimate like sci-fi inversion scenario where it's like, oh yeah, we invented humanoid robots. They're really fucking good, but it's like I can make my own dinner, you know. I don't,
Yeah, yeah, okay, and it's
also
like,
it's
yeah,
oh yeah yeah
well, kind of mow the lawn. It's like, oh no, it struggles getting the actual mower out of the shed. Like once it's all set up, it can do it, but by that stage, I may as well just mow it myself.
yeah. Whereas oh yeah, yeah, people are like, oh you've got an Optimus. What do you use it for? And it's like, oh, it's it juggles. That's funny. Like, have you seen one of them juggle? You're like, I'll turn it on. I'll turn it on. You go, will you juggle? And it's like, duh, 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 duh. And it's like, yeah. So that's pretty good. That's actually the first time I've turned it on in 3 weeks, by the way.
Exactly. It's out of batteries. I will just get it to charge, and then I'll ask. It does this funny
It's so
dance.
funny.
Does this funny dance thing? It's like the Fortnite
Yeah,
dance. It does that.
that would be the ultimate outcome for sure. I guess the question is a lot of the obviously a lot of the self-driving car, like as we've talked about, we were somewhat wrong on the self-driving car stuff in as much as it's like Waymo is operational in San Francisco and other markets and seems to be quite good, right? Like people are
Yeah.
using Waymo. um
I'm still skeptical
I'm
about
not
the global
no,
rollout.
I agree. I'm with you there. But like the Waymo experience in San Francisco is much further ahead than where I would have thought self driving would be, even in
Mm.
what you would imagine is like the market that has by a insanely wide margin the best data, the best training. Like I'm sure
Mm.
Waymo, Uber, Tesla, all these companies like have mapped and trained and experienced the San Francisco road system to an absolute T, which is different to be like
Mm.
plonking a self-driving car in a random country and be like, take me to X destination.
Yeah, although that is the Tesla self-driving model,
Yeah,
is that because it is all AI based, that you should be able to do that. But I
yeah,
mean, my skepticism is still on. Look, we'll see. Like, I'm definitely much closer to believing it than yes, I was 2 years ago. In particular, it does seem like Tesla's self-driving, while right now is certainly not perfect, and it's got a whole lot of problems. You can read my goddamn long ass blog post about it if you really want. I can see it getting better and better and being good enough. Still very skeptical of the business model around self-driving taxis because I just can't see the numbers working out
well,
for
yeah,
at
I'm
least
not
for a very very long
that's
time.
the Waymo side of it that I'm not um
Like the actual machines have to cost like 10 grand or something like that for it to make sense. Like the actual cars, but anyway, regardless. But yes, I do see that like AI and like especially like obviously the vision cataloging stuff or whatever,
yeah,
and the sheer amount of data that you can now get and
yeah.
ingest in these
But
models.
again, it's
Um,
a it's another massive step up to go from, ultimately, yes, driving is a difficult problem, but it's also like a relatively structured problem where it's like
yeah,
it is
totally.
very rules oriented. Like, you can train on a bunch of data, you can train, but it ultimately,
Yeah, very
but
confined.
ultimately it comes down, and there, don't get me wrong, there are a million fucking externalities to driving, and there's all sorts of bizarre things that can go wrong. Like a moose can walk onto the road, or
Mm.
whatever. But
Goddamn
ultimately,
moose.
it comes down to when you see these two lines, you can do this. When you see that sign, you can do this. It's like it's if then statements projected into the real world, but just like a million of them. Whereas, I mean,
Mm.
maybe you could say the same thing about a humanoid robot's operation, but I feel like even something like putting a
What?
robot in a kitchen that it's never seen before and being like, operate the dishwasher, or stack these plates in the dishwasher, or on the complex end, make me a fucking risotto.
Mm.
Or even, the step up from a Roomba vacuuming the floor of a house on autopilot to actually this humanoid robot must clean my living room,
Yeah,
move
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
where it's
Well, I
need to
mean, like,
be.
look, even if a Roomba could just like, if there's something on the floor that shouldn't be there, like pick it up and put it on the table or whatever, and then continue with your vacuuming. Don't just fucking suck up the cable and just, or even better. Okay, here's one for you folks. I know you don't want to think about it. Hopefully you're not eating a Roomba, not recognizing that the goddamn cat has accidentally slightly shat just outside its kitty litter and then just dragging shit all over the room. That would be great. If they could solve for that, if the Roomba could just
Are you
visually
speaking from
identify,
experience?
I am. I don't actually have a Roomba. It's the other
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the Chinese one or
Well,
whatever.
yeah.
It's
See,
pretty good.
going back to the example of a bunch of people over at your house being like, "Oh, you've got an Optimus. What do you get that thing to do?" It's like, do you get that to clean your house? And it's like, oh, yeah, I did it once or twice, but like, I just got sick of it, like tapping me on the shoulder and being like, "Where's this go?" Imagine if you,
Like, yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Three things that are fucking annoying in life. What, like, washing the dishes, and I say that I mean even like stacking a dishwasher, folding
yep,
clothes, and ironing clothes. I mean, I don't really iron clothes, but whatever. Folding clothes, and then like, yeah, obviously like tidying up and vacuuming. Like they're three very annoying things. But like most other stuff aren't that annoying. Like, as in, I again getting the robot to fix me a drink, I think would be annoying, as you say. Like, what do you want? Like Campari soda. Where's the Campari? Even if it's not asking, it's like
yeah,
by the time
it's
it's
just
kind
what,
of, how do you want it?
yeah,
Like, I'll just go out and do it
it's sort maybe
myself.
it does that thing where where you've been asked to do something and you don't want to look like a moron, so or to get something, so you sort of just like open closets and like poke around, like until hoping that at some point someone will say to you, "It's in the drawer, mate." Imagine a robot doing that, just being
Yeah.
like, oh, plates, doing this like rustling around, moving stuff around with his big clumsy fucking hand. I mean, again, we are really talking out of school here and how far ahead this stuff is going to be, but again, this is one of those things that they're planting the seeds in our minds for where a possible growth trajectory could be for a lot of these companies, be it Apple, be it whatever. I'm sure it's nice that they've put that much more achievable goal of, and frankly, I don't really know what it's necessarily for. Having like, that iPad fucking arm sitting on your kitchen table or in like a central hub area of your house and doing what? Like it follows you around
Yeah, I
with like
know.
a recipes on it. I get that would
Yeah, I
100%
think
be the
that's kind
thing
of the
that's in
idea.
like their keynote presentation, where it's like, you don't
Yeah.
have to, you're cooking and this thing on a extensible arm is like following your face. So it's always in front of you.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like, and so you can kind of FaceTime while cooking or whatever, and like it's following you around, and so you're always in the middle, and it's got yeah, it's kind of
I
hard to
mean, yeah.
fully know, and also the expense. Like, I know this is Apple, and they're happy to just like make something really expensive, but just the expense of that arm itself to make some kind of like basically iPad type device that you, I guess, interact with your voice, like that thing is going to be fucking
Yeah,
expensive
yeah.
to, as you say, what, just basically be like a recipe and like timer setter
Well,
thing.
yeah. And again, this idea is not, I mean, Apple's obviously working on it, but it's not the first company that's thought about it. Like Meta back when they were Facebook, I think it was pre-Meta rebrand, did like the portal where it was like essentially a kitchen computer that could do messenger call and like Skype video and whatever. Remember they had that Skype partnership and whatever, where I think it's just like this. I mean, this is additional to the humanoid robot conversation, but like this fantasy that we can return to like a family hub device that's like the family computer, which doesn't exist anymore. And for good reason, like the idea of having a computer room where it's like the family computer and everyone uses this one device is completely gone.
Yeah.
But they've been trying to replace it with this idea of like, having some easily interactable hub that sits on your kitchen bench or maybe your kitchen table or maybe some central area and like lets you do family social-y sort of group activity things.
Yeah, and have the family calendar.
Yeah, like it's all
and this
which
kind of stuff.
it's just so removed from the way that their entire service is structured. Like if you bought a Facebook portal, you are a pervert. I'm putting it right out there. What a perverted device to own. But this Apple one feels kind of like in that realm, and it also sort of fits into their like HomePod.
Well, exactly. I mean, we have an iPad for home like automation stuff, where it's like. But I mean, even at the moment, Apple's funny in that like they would have to really change the way they think because they like the HomePods. They've barely updated them. They're so slow. They're not going to have Apple AI, like Apple Intelligence, because he needs 8 gigs of RAM. So they're going to be they're kind of annoying. They're fine. Like we have these HomePods, like, and also you can't have like family accounts with Apple. Like nothing is set up for family. Even like linking your family and creating families is really kind of convoluted and weird. They obviously have like child accounts, but it's not really featured. I don't know. I'll probably if it's good, I'll buy one.
You'll get the arm.
I mean, yeah. As I said, this is still a rumor, but it does seem to be true. Like it's one of those ones that like that you just keep hearing about. So it probably will likely happen.
Allegedly,
it might not.
It's in the humanoid robot division. I mean, that would you would have to think. I mean, this doesn't just apply to humanoid robots, but you would have to think that's got to be such a great job to have like anywhere in Silicon Valley, like working in the far moonshot department of, Apple, Google, like Google X, which is, I think, still hanging around. Or I guess like the Optimus project at Tesla. Like where you're moving.
We're in that you just get to see robots falling over all day.
Just like the people who work on like the concept cars for BMW and shit, or like Hyundai, where it's like these absolutely psychotic vehicles that are never ever going to be used. Their technology is probably never even going to be implemented into production vehicles. But you just get to like faff around and make cool futuristic stuff. And your remit is like, give us some exit channel to profitability that we may roll out in fucking 2035, 2040. That's the dream.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But that said, if you're like a robotics entrepreneur out there and you're listening, literally, you will be rich if you make the 4 devices. 1, automatic kitty litter cleaning. I've tried them all. None of them fucking work.
How do the current ones work?
Well, there's all kinds of ones. The one I've got at the moment, like, has a compartment. It's like you change basically the box itself. There's like a cardboard box with litter in it, and you put this device on top of it, and it kind of shovels the shit and piss into like a kind of sealed box at the end, so that you're supposed to just change it, once a week or whatever.
No bueno.
No go. Then there's another one that's huge round ball thing that we no longer have, that the cats go in and it kind of puts like laminate over the shit every time it shits. That was just huge and just ridiculous mess. But anyway, if you can work out either some kind of robot thing or some kind of actually efficient kitty litter that is self-cleaning that I want to never have to touch or think about, that's one. Yeah, obviously folding clothes. If you can sort that out, but it doesn't have to be a humanoid. Like if I can just pour it into the top of some kind of device and then it just spits out the clothes down the bottom or folds them somehow. Like this, don't think arms for any of this stuff.
The clothes bin checkout thingy they got going on at Uniqlo. You know, give
Yeah,
me that,
exactly.
and then like your little screen that shows me a list of all the crap I have. And you just tap,
Yeah.
fold, 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 fold.
Yeah, and it just goes like a printer, some kind of
a
like
printer
a
device.
printer.
Yeah.
Like you put paper, yeah, some kind of thing like that. Obviously, that'd be a huge
Yep.
win. Yeah, I want the Roomba that picks things up off the floor as opposed to like rip out USB cables and
Yep.
just like
Puts it in the correct place
smear
without
shit everywhere.
asking me.
Yeah, and then finally, obviously, I want some kind of weapon thing.
You wanted to have a gun. I thought you were about to say, and finally, I want
Yeah.
a robot lover, a gentle and attentive lover.
I mean, I wouldn't be the only one in the world were I to be that perverted. Unfortunately,
That's very true.
nowadays I fear I'm in the minority.
So basically, if you could fulfill all those functions for Raph, but also have it not be humanoid and not
no, I'm saying these can be four discrete. These can be
these are four
discrete
devices.
robots.
Ultimately, we don't want another guy in our house who's hanging around and like touching stuff and making noise and footsteps and what have you.
Or even just standing there next to me, like because it has nothing to do. Just like right now while I'm recording, it would just be standing here next to me. Maybe I guess just waiting for me to say something.
It could jump on the pod, pull up a mic, and
or it just like kind of lying down, face down on the ground. Maybe I don't know, just make it not feel awkward.
That's incredible. Its default charging position is lying face down on the ground like a dead guy. That's the dream, folks.
If you're listening to this, did you know there's another world out there where you get a second episode of Down Round a week?
Yep, it's called Down Round Premium.
That's right, and there's no interruptions.
No interruptions, no ads. 2 episodes a week, including the free one you're getting right now, plus another one.
Yep, $7 a month, not a week, a month. Downround.net. Downround.net. Instant access to the whole back catalogue as well. You've got so much to catch up on.
There's so much. Get around it.